Hi guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I know it's been a really long time. It's been 2 months actually, so I'm really sorry. My goal is to post weekly, but the truth is sometimes mania, hypomania, or depressive episodes get in the way and interfere and make it a little bit difficult for many reasons. So, um, sorry again, but at least maybe now you can see why so many people with bipolar disorder struggle so much with work, school, or relationships, because, 1 minute you can be fine, you can be you can be you for a couple weeks, a couple months, some people can even go years, and the next thing you can fall off your train, either go to a depressive episode or you spike up to mania. So yeah, maybe that's why it's a little bit tricky sometimes. So, a little update about where I've been the last 2 months. Um, I've actually been in back episodes. So first I was, let's see, I have my little notes here. So first, I was in a hypomanic episode for about 2 weeks, and in that episode, I decided overnight that I wanted to remodel my parents' RV, and so that's what we did. Then the very next day, we went out and bought everything, and for 2 weeks, I manically just painted and reorganized and decorated this RV with the help of my family. And that might seem like a good thing, that might seem positive, and yes, that was a good thing that happened out of that hypomanic episode, but you also have to remember all the other symptoms that come with hypomania. So my heart rate was super elevated, I was super duper anxious, jittery, I couldn't keep track of my thoughts, my appetite goes completely away. My appetite has been pretty much gone the last 2 months because it goes away in mania and in depression. For some people in depression, they actually overeat and they get really hungry and just, that's the way their appetite changes. But for me, it completely goes away. And so, lots of nausea and even vomiting when you're trying to eat. So yeah, not the most fun, but I did do a pretty cool project, so that was awesome. But after that, instead of going back to my base, I crashed really hard. I crashed into a depressive episode, and I was stuck there for a couple weeks. I didn't have any motivation. I actually started making notes for this video when I was in that depressive episode, but I just could not think. I couldn't remember. I couldn't. So I just started it, and then after my depressive episode, I spiked back up and went into hypomania, and currently I am coming out of it. So I hope that I'm going back to my base. We shall see. But that's where I've been. So I've been struggling a little bit on the roller coaster. I've also really been struggling with my weight. Like I said, my appetite's been gone for the last 2 months. So much so that for dinner mostly I have to smoke cannabis sometimes to even eat. And guys, I'm literally drinking a protein shake for lunch, fasting for breakfast, and having one meal a day at dinner. And I'm still doing my yoga, I'm still exercising, drinking my water, and your girl is still gaining weight. Literally still gaining weight, and it's because of my medication. Actually, it's because one of my medications especially, but it's, I think the most important one, possibly because it's the one that prevents me from going fully manic, which mania is extremely dangerous. So gotta stay on it. And yes, I could talk to my psychiatrist about, finding another one, but you guys, I have tried so many of them, and it took over 7 months to find the combination of medications that I am on right now that has made me the most stable. So for now, I gotta suck it up and be chubby, and at least I'm happier. I don't want to die. I am not plagued by my paranoia and anxiety. So yeah, that's where I've been. Alright, now let's talk about depression. So You know, when I feel depression coming on, it's kind of like when you feel a cold coming on. So, you know, when you feel that cold, you do everything. You feel that sore throat. You do everything you possibly can, right? You take your extra vitamins, you go out to the store and you get Emergency. You know, you get the ginger and lemon and honey, and you pull out all the, you know, natural stuff that you think, the Zicam, all the medications and the natural stuff that you think are going to fight that cold, but it never works because that is already in your system. It's already in your body. So it's the same. It's the same with depression and even mania. You can feel it coming. And I do everything I can. You know, when I feel that depression current coming down, I do extra yoga. Like, I'm talking 2 hours, sometimes an hour and a half. Go on like 10 walks a day. That's an exaggeration, but I do go out quite a bit when I'm feeling depressed and trying to get out there. But I meditate, I pray, I dance, I call my family and friends, and it never works. It never works because, like a cold, it's already in your system. It's already coming. So, you know, you just have to continue doing those things, continue doing your yoga, continue trying to push yourself, even through your depression. But yeah, that's kind of what it's like. Once it hits you, kind of there's no reversing it, only kind of preventing yourself from falling further down. So yeah. And sometimes it sucks because you're like, why am I depressed? Like, and sometimes something can actually trigger that depression, you know, like, I don't know, maybe your dog died or something, or other triggers that you may not know you have. But oftentimes there's no reason. Oftentimes I just am depressed. I just don't feel well, and it's just because of my disorder. So sometimes that makes it more frustrating, and I get really angry because at least when something is causing you to be depressed, you can try to work through that. But when it's nothing and you're just down and what do you do? What do you do about that, you know? So it can get a little tricky. So now I just want to go through my list, and talk about some of the things that you may notice that you're experiencing if you're falling into depression, or maybe if you're already there. So here's a little list. So starting with loss of concentration. So you can't focus. Sometimes, for example, school, like you'll be in class, but you're looking at the teacher, but you're not really hearing what they're saying. Like, that would be an example. So sleep disturbances, such as sleeping too much or too little, or waking up multiple times throughout the night and having a hard time falling back to sleep. So for me, in depression, I do have sleep disturbances. Like, I wake up multiple times throughout the night. But in depression, that's kind of the only time that I really feel like sleeping. When I'm manic or even my base, I struggle to sleep. So sleep disturbances, some people sleep like 10, 12, even more hours a day when they're depressed, because that's all you want to do. You're just so exhausted, you're so fatigued, and the bed is calling your name. So lack of motivation. This one's a tricky one for me because I have to fight it quite often, because in bipolar disorder, it's not just fluctuations in mood, it's also fluctuations in energy levels and motivation. So I fight a lot with not having the motivation, but, you know, try to push yourself. So lack of motivation is a huge one for depression. And then difficulty making decisions or indecisiveness. So you kind of doubt everything when you're depressed, so that kind of plays into, you know, making a decision, or you just can't really think straight, so it makes it hard. Excessive guilt. So you just start feeling guilty about everything. You feel guilty that you are so depressed that you can't hold a conversation. You feel guilty that, you know, your face is really mopey and it might be bringing everybody else down, or at least that's how you feel. So you just have this overwhelming sense of guilt and even shame. Low self-esteem. This is huge. Again, esteem. You feel bad about your body image, but you also start doubting every life decision and beating yourself up for not doing more or being better by now, and you just feel so much loss of confidence and loss of self-esteem. Also, loss of interest in things you normally love or enjoy. So one huge thing for me that I notice is I don't want to do my yoga in the mornings. And if you know me, you know how important it is to me. And because it not only helps me physically, but it helps me so much mentally. It helps me with my anxiety. You know, I do my breathing exercises and then I tend to meditate afterwards. So really, it's like a prayer routine. I love it. It's my thing. But I lose complete interest in it when you're depressed, and that's what happens. Things that normally interest you, you don't care about anymore. Foggy brain, so that's kind of like loss of concentration and focus. Like you just feel like you're so slow motion. You feel like you can't find your words. You feel like you don't have words to even say. You just feel foggy, kind of clouded, kind of like you took Advil PM or melatonin and you woke up before you wanted to or something, you know, kind of like that, just weighed down, heavy. And you also get really, really irritable. Little things that might not normally bother you might really irritate you or piss you off or make you upset, and you could be a lot quicker to snap at someone. So yeah, a lot more irritable than usual. Feeling slowed down or more sluggish than normal. So once again, like the fogginess, you just feel so slowed down. You don't want to do anything. You're moving in slow motion. You shower slow. You're eating slow. Everything is so slow. And that's kind of how I feel about bipolar disorder. It's either fast or slow. It's, you know, depression or mania. It's sped up or really, really, really slowed down. So feeling hopeless. So this one is huge. You just feel no hope. You lose everything. You think you're never going to come out of it. You feel this impending doom. You feel like everything is bad in the world. Everything is bad. You get pessimistic. You start thinking about all the worst possible things, and you think negatively. You don't want to, but you just think negatively. And feeling anxious. So you overthink everything you say or all the decisions you make, and you're just anxious about things all the time. You have all these racing thoughts. Well, I don't know if racing thoughts are with depression, but definitely with bipolar. But yeah, I guess so, because racing thoughts can be with anxiety as well. So yeah, just feeling really anxious and uncomfortable in situations that you might not normally feel uncomfortable in. And then this next one is huge. Suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation. You know, you feel like you're never going to get better. You lose all hope. You're sick and your brain is trying to convince you to call it quits. And sometimes these thoughts can consume your very being, because your brain is sick and it's being very demanding and telling you to go. Like, it's trying to convince you, and that's what it is. It's an illness. It's not you. It's not real. So that's something that try to remember. When you feel that, it's not you. It's your illness. It's temporary solution, or it's a permanent solution to a temporary pain, and it's not worth it. Yeah, but yeah, these thoughts can kind of take over your very being. So, and you know, when you're so far into your depression, it can almost feel like you are a ghost in your own life, you know. No one really sees you, no one really hears you, and it could be because you don't have anything to give when you're depressed. Sometimes you don't have any energy, any words, nothing. So it's kind of empty a little bit. And therefore you kind of feel like unseen and just not well. But everybody has things that they notice they begin doing when depressed. And since I haven't been working in a while, I've really been able to pay attention to the things that I do and the things that my body does. So here are just a few of mine, just in case you might relate. So I really, really hate taking my meds. It becomes a chore instead of regular automatic thing I do. This is because sometimes adding anything to your list of things to do or anything that requires energy is so taxing. And I think also subconsciously I get really angry and down and upset that I have to take all these medications and I'm still sick. And yeah, so I hate taking my meds. When I'm hypomanic or just myself, like, it's second nature. I just do it. I don't even think about it. I know I have to do it, so I do it. And I do it when I'm depressed too, but it's like, I don't know. I just get lazy to do it. So, I already mentioned yoga, but again, yoga becomes a chore and something I have to force myself to do instead of something I normally love and look forward to. And when I'm depressed, I just want my yoga session to just be done. I just want to be done. I'm not even really focusing as much as I should on my breath. And I just want it to be over. I just want to go back to bed and sleep and not move. And I don't notice this until I've already stocked the cupboards, but I always eat soup and bananas when I'm depressed. And it's funny because it wasn't until like 6 months ago that I noticed this pattern, but I've been doing it forever. When you're depressed, you don't really have the energy to cook or to make a nice meal most days, so soup and bananas are easy to eat and easier to keep down than most foods because nausea is kind of a constant feeling, especially around food. Even if you know you must eat to feel better, it's still hard. For some people, it's the opposite. Like I said, they binge eat and they overeat. But yeah. And a lot of people will neglect their hygiene. It actually makes sense if you've ever been that low. A shower is so hard. I've literally had my husband, Carson, help me shower before when I'm too far gone. But I have this obsession with feeling clean, and I used to shower so many times a day that my skin was like super dry and gross, so I worked through that. But what I tend to do when I'm depressed is I start to take baths instead of showers. And because it's so much easier to sit there and, you know, grab a cup and pour water on yourself than it is to stand in the shower. So, yes. And another thing that goes along with showering and hygiene is I can really abuse the power of dry shampoo when I'm depressed. Like, I can stretch it out for like a week versus, you know, when I'm my normal self or hypomanic, I'll wash my hair like twice a week. Just because I don't want to strip my hair. So, but yeah, dry shampoo kind of becomes my best friend. Sorry guys, I'm still kind of feeling a little off, but I'm trying. So the projects I started while hypomanic or manic are now abandoned in a corner of my living room. So my mind is no longer going a million miles a minute, so I can no longer keep up with all the ideas and things I wanted to do when I was hypomanic or manic. So I actually read this thing in a book that was like one way to identify a bipolar person. And it was like a joke, but it was like one way to identify a person with bipolar disorder is if you go into their home and you see, you know, a bunch of half-started projects. So yeah, it's not a lie. I still tidy up the house a little, but I don't actually fully clean and deep clean the house when I'm depressed. It's too much energy, not about it. And I live with Carson now, so I don't usually get depression rooms anymore. And that's just what people sometimes call their pigsty in their homes or in their bedrooms or rooms when they are depressed. So sometimes people will get like cups of water and dishes piling high all over their bedroom or in the kitchen, and the bed's not made, laundry all over the floor, and things are just scattered. But Carson helps me when I'm too down so this doesn't get out of hand like it did when I was younger and living at home. But I'm better about it now. I actually push myself to do the bed even when I'm depressed. I push myself to, you know, take the dishes to at least the kitchen. Yeah. I have so many meltdowns. It's kind of embarrassing for really minor things that don't deserve that reaction, or giant meltdowns when I get emo and realize that this is my life forever, and which I really feel intensely when I'm depressed, because you just feel so hopeless and so much doom, kind of. Yeah. And I have a planner where I keep track of my moods and symptoms every day. It really helps. So, for example, I'll put an arrow up indicating mania or hypomania, or I'll put a down arrow to indicate depression or low motivation. And then I will go and put a couple sentences, not very much, but just like, today I woke up, my heart was racing, mind is jumbled, anxious, can't eat, and we'll just write all the things that I'm feeling. And this kind of helps me keep track of my symptoms and see where I am, if I'm climbing, if I'm going down, if I'm me. Like, it really helps me. But when I am depressed, I do the bare minimum. Like, I won't even write sentences. I'll just be like nausea, vomiting, dizzy, heart racing, and I'll put my arrow, and that's about it. I also keep track of my sleep on there, which is super duper important, because one night of not sleeping for a person with bipolar disorder can turn into days of not sleeping. So, yeah. Let's see. Keeping track of like the things in my planner also help me. Like, for example, if I'm going manic, I know that I can take extra medication to try to bring myself back down or prevent myself from climbing further. So it's just a really good tool for people who have bipolar disorder, people with mental illness that have episodes, to track on their planner, so help them, you know, manage their illness better. Let's see. I socially isolate. A lot of people do this. I don't mean to. It's just easiest. You kind of feel like a burden on people, or you just have nothing to say, so you don't really want to be with people. You don't really care about anything, so you just don't care. So you just socially isolate from my family even, or some, like my friends. But also I usually stop going on social media and even stop listening or reading any news. I actually hate this about myself, because I feel like I come back 3 weeks later or a couple months later and somebody I know is now engaged or married, or Kanye's off his meds again and is trying to run for president. So I just miss so many things when I go into depression, and I hate this, but it's part of it. So I feel an enormous amount of guilt about everything when I'm depressed. I feel guilty that I'm not doing more. I feel that I'm not dressed nicer, that I'm not ready as much, that I have bipolar disorder. I can't control that. I still feel extremely guilty about it. You know, I feel so guilty that I have it, and that my husband and my family and friends have to put up with it and be there for me a lot. And I just feel shame and guilt a lot. So another thing I do is I listen to Christian music, or like feel good music, or I listen to a lot of Kanye, because a lot of his music I actually feel, I relate to it. So yeah, just listening to music that makes you feel good. Christian music helps you kind of like get spiritual, and it makes you feel like you're less alone. I get really spiritual when I'm manic and depressed, because I think I'm just a spiritual person in general, but especially when I'm depressed and especially when I'm manic, I just see, especially when I'm manic, I see God in everything. But when I'm depressed, I'm just like begging for God, you know? I'm praying to see him in everything like I always do. But when you're depressed, you're not all there. So yeah, sorry guys. I know it's been a long time, and I know this video is a little long, but these are some things that maybe you'll notice in yourself if you are dealing with a little bit of depression, and maybe this is a sign for you to get some help. Once again, I am always here to talk. Send me a message. I am happy to help. It makes me feel good when people reach out, because I don't want anybody to feel alone, especially if they have something similar going on. Then, we can talk it out. Again, sorry I was a little groggy this time. Not feeling that great, but I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for watching and liking this video and just sharing. It means so much to me. Thank you guys.